Hello, I'm David.
Hi, I'm Julie.
So now we're going to do a review of Disney's Space Mountain game. All systems go for ages 8 and up, 2 to 4 players. Oh, it does say 20 to 40 minutes right here.
Oh, okay.
We didn't see that. It wasn't on the side here. We estimated 30 minutes.
So we were close.
So we were close.
Yep.
This is a set collection race game with push your luck elements to it. Check out the how to play and playthrough video, but here I'll go over some of the basics. You'll set up the board like this. You'll have these encounter tokens randomly placed all around the board, and you'll give each player 5 mission cards. The object is to, if you play the full game, to complete all 5 mission cards, and you have to do it in order. So even if I get mission markers on D and I completed C, I can't complete C until I have A and B done first. So you get 5 mission cards each player. You'll see there's a deck here, and there's enough for 4 players. Here are the ships for the other players. You also get spaceports, and each player will pick one spaceport that matches your color. So if I pick the red rocket, I will start on the red spaceport. Now I want to point out something in the rules in case you are confused like I was. It says, place your rockets on the spaceport. Well, if you notice that red, blue, and purple aren't where their spaceports are, only green is. So don't let that confuse you. So Julie, being the blue rocket, she starts with the blue spaceport. Notice we have spaceport tokens that match every spaceport on the board. The one though that's of your rocket, your color, it says approved for travel. Now how do you get approved for travel on the other 4 colors that you don't have? We just got to land on it or pass through it. So right now I have the red one, Julie has the blue one, and so the full game is you have to get to all 5 spaceports and complete all 5 mission cards. It does provide optional rules for a shorter game. On the very back of the page, it says you can play with 3 or 4 missions or don't play with the Starports. Sorry, I said spaceports, Starports. You can not play with the Starport tokens and just the first to complete 3 or 4 missions. In our version that you'll see, we just did the first to complete 6 of any combination of missions and Starports, and that includes the one that you start with. So you just need to complete 5 more. So that's kind of nice if you want to play a shorter game. Now you see that there are wormholes on here. If your rocket moves onto a wormhole, you go to the either if you land on it or move through it, you move to the other end, and then you point your rocket in any direction. You also see that there will be a starport token that you can land on. Now when these flip up, they stay flipped up, and everybody knows where they are, and anybody can move on to them and move through them. In fact, players can be on the same space, move through the same space. It doesn't matter. But this one right here, this starport token, that means that you must go back to one of your starport tokens that you're approved to travel. So right now, I would go back to red if I land on that. But if I had blue and let's say green, I can choose which 3 I want to go back. So that could be a good thing to move on to that. By the way, these are just decorative, and they say you don't even need to place them on the board. There are holes here for them to move to place them onto, but they don't fit very well, at least in our version of the game. So how are you going to be moving? Well, we're going to be dropping these 3 dice in a launch bay tower right here, and you'll put this together too. It's pretty easy. You'll put it in here. You'll drop the dice in, and you got to carry out the movements in this order. If I show on the other camera here, when you see a double arrow like that on either side, that means you're going to be moving forward 1 space and turning. I'll be turning again and turning again. But if it was something like this, you'd move 2 spaces in your direction, turn, and then turn. So let me explain how that works. Be easier in the rule book here. So when you get the arrows that go one direction, you move 2 straight 2 spaces forward. You're always moving 2 spaces. And here you turn, you move 1 space forward, and then turn and move 1 space in the direction of your turn. You either go left or right. Now, why are there orange and blue? Well, because you only have, this is the push your luck aspect of the game. All players use the same fuel gauge. The active player, you take turns, someone will take turns dropping dice in the tower. That's their job. It doesn't matter, it can matter at the end of the game if there's a tie who the active player is. I'll explain that in a moment. But let's say I did roll these 3 orange, everybody's fuel goes down 3. By the way, this can be hard to move for a young person. We complete this current turn, but if we push our luck, and if anybody who decides to remain traveling, and they get to 1, they run out of fuel, and they lose all progress. Now that's the sad thing here. If you bust, let's say I was about ready to complete A, and I had all these other ones done. You might think, well, how does that happen? Because sometimes you can't get the encounter tokens you want. Here are the different encounter tokens, by the way. You have a asteroid, a planet, a satellite, and a comet, and that's a wild. And I already told you about the starport token. Well, let's say I bust, and I have all this done. I lose all my progress. So that's why you want to avoid busting. When you decide to, so let's say this is what's going on. Julie decides, I'm done. And say this is her. She turns this over. Her rocket comes off the board. She keeps all of her progress for the next round. Okay? I decide to keep on going. Julie will not lose her progress if I bust. So now I drop it in. And look, I busted. I got 2 orange. So any progress that I had, I would lose. Say this wasn't Julie. I don't lose any missions I've completed or any starports, but I would lose my progress right here if that was me and not Julie. And so that's what's going on. The next round, you would reset the fuel to 6. You would start at any starport that you have access to. For me, let's say it was red, blue, or green, so I can start any one of these. Here's green, here's red, and here's blue. And then there will be a new active player. Now, why does it matter who the active player is from turn to turn? Because when you get to winning the game, if there's a tie, if 2 or more players win on the same turn, the player closest to the active player clockwise wins. So you want to keep track of who the active player is. So the first in the full game to complete 5 mission cards and visit all 5 starports win, unless you play a version where you play with only having to complete 3 or 4 missions, or you don't play with the starports. So that's how you play. If you want to watch that how to play and play through, please check it out.
Please do.
So now we're going to do our review. And when we do our reviews, Julie goes first. We give her positive, negatives, and neutrals, and then we give our rating based on the Board Game Geek scale.
Yes.
So here we go.
All right. You can see that this is the most, I gave this lots of negatives because I just didn't really find this to be a very fun game. I found it to be incredibly frustrating. And I know push your luck games can be, but this one is super frustrating because of the way the dice makes you move. And that's one thing I also said, is that the dice movement can be difficult for younger players or those with spatial reasoning or cognitive issues, because it can be real challenging to remember that you move forward, then you turn, or you keep going straight, or whatever. And if you watch the How to Play and Playthrough, David marked on the board for me which way I would go, so I wouldn't get so frustrated and confused.
By the way, what it was is that, let's say it was that you could use this for a young player. I would say you'd be either moving here or here on a turn.
And it was very helpful. It still didn't change how I felt about it, but it made it, a little bit easier for that point. And I also didn't like that, there wasn't hardly any player interaction. And you might say, well, I saw the playthrough and how to play, and David seemed to really be, David was helping me a lot. to help me get through it all, but there really isn't any like
That's just helping you play.
communication or anything. It's just, I don't know. I guess I was expecting something a little bit more, and this didn't give it to me.
Well, you didn't find it fun.
I did not find it fun at all. I was actually very miserable, and I couldn't wait for it to be over.
Well, if you play the full version,
oh, it's awful.
when you have to get to all 5 starports, it gets so tedious trying to get to that last starport.
And it got to the point when we were doing it, I was like, that's it, I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
So when you watched How to Play a Playthrough, we changed that knowing that it's very tedious. And if you are going to try this game out, I do not recommend playing having to get all 5 starports.
No.
By the way, I did forget to mention that these are wormholes, and when you land on or move through it, you zip around to over here. All right, so let's take a look at what I had to say. Well, we have similar things.
Ooh.
So it's repetitive. In fact, I think a better adjective would be tedious.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that until now. So it's a set collection, push your luck race game. I'm neutral on that because the mechanics aren't necessarily bad. Okay. But the other negatives is what makes it bad.
Yeah.
And that could be a cool game, right? Set collection, push your luck.
Sure.
And racing. In fact, in some ways, I'm trying to remember the name of the game. Well, it will come to me in a moment. That we do like to play that's similar to it.
Oh, okay.
It's a pirate game.
Oh.
Jamaica.
Yeah.
That's a great race game.
That is fun. That one I do like.
Yeah, there's not much set collection in it. And you can push your luck with the way you try to do things.
There's also player interaction there too.
Yeah, there's a lot of player
with
action.
people, so it's yeah.
Anyway, so there's no player interaction, very little meaningful decision making because when the dice are rolled, you pretty much got to do it. Now you can plan ahead on turns, but that favors people. That favors people who can figure that out. A young person would be like, a very bright young person would have to be able to predict ahead what was going to happen if I did go left or right now. And then understanding that, you'll hear us talk about on the how to play the playthrough. Okay, we have 4 fuel. We can't bust next turn, so we'll stay in. But once you get to 3, it is possible to roll. Well, actually, you could bust on 4.
Yeah, you could.
Right, because you can get 3 orange.
Right.
But we talk about that. A young person, the only thing you can really plan ahead is thinking about if I go to the starport, if I go to this wormhole, how I point my ship, and how I do my turns. That's about all the planning you can do. And again, that's going to benefit someone who's better at spatial reasoning.
Yep.
So there's rulebook comprehensibility issues. I said this in the unboxing. I don't know why Ravensburger continues to have this problem. It had a problem in Alien and Gargoyles. Our Gargoyles is really bad. This one here, as I pointed out in the introduction, you have. This is really confusing here when they don't show the rockets in the proper place. Okay, there's a minor spelling issue here, big deal, but still, why don't they have someone proofing? But also, too, when they're talking about the active player here, it is really confusing. You have to read ahead to figure out what the heck they're saying. And for a simple game, that shouldn't be that way. Because some people won't get past this page setup. That's the worst place to make a mistake, is setting up the game. And so I give it a minus because it shouldn't happen with a game this simple for this audience. That's a mass market game. The recommended optional rules for fast play is it is more fun and less frustrating when you're not trying to have to get everything. The first time we played where you did have to get everything, and that was more tedious and less fun. Now, the spaceports are useless.
Yeah.
They even say in the rulebook, you don't have to play with them. So why include them? In fact, you have to take them apart to put them in the box. And they don't fit on the board. So can you imagine, while you're playing, you got to fit it underneath like this. It's going to move all over the place. Screw it.
Yep.
This is one of the most worthless game pieces. If we had to do a top 10 of worthless game pieces, this would be on that list. And then the completion markers, those are the mission markers. There's issues with it and a missed opportunity. Now, what I mean by that there's issues with it, in a 4-player game, there will not be enough of these.
No.
I guarantee it, there won't be. And then, if they could, I'm surprised they made a push your luck game where you lose all progress, even progress from previous turns. They should have made this double-sided where it's red on one side or let's say it's yellow on one side and green on one side, where green is locked from a previous turn and yellow is the current turn, where you only lose your yellow completion markers if you push your luck. And then that would make people want to push their luck more.
Yeah.
We're pretty much playing it so safe that we don't want to push our luck
And lose everything.
Yeah. But if I was only going to lose my yellow markers, if you had that opportunity to do that, then I would do it.
Yeah.
So again, missed opportunity in game design. I thought of that right away before we played it.
You did.
And I was reading the rules. Says, whoa, that sucks. I can already tell right away we're not going to push our luck that much. You can predict these things, you know, having played thousands of games. So some planning and movement will benefit spatial reasoning. So if it's a young person or someone like Julie who has a cognitive disability, the left and rights and using the planning with the dice and going through wormholes and going to what spaceport, what direction you face will benefit someone who's better at that.
Sure.
So a younger person, unless they're in the gifted and talented range, which I have expertise in.
You do.
My old school district, half the tests we gave 4 batteries. 2 of the 4 were spatial reasoning tests.
Oh, I would have failed.
So I having used games when I taught gifted and talented, those kids have been no problem planning ahead.
Yeah.
See, other kids have been like,
What the heck?
they wouldn't have been able to. They would have not been able to take advantage of that.
No.
All right, so a lot of negatives.
How do we rate it?
Let's take a look at how we rate it on the BGG scale.
Okay.
So
Wow.
you said bad. In fact, you changed your rating after the second time. You
I
first
did.
said
Mediocre.
You first said take it or leave it,
Yep.
and then after the second time you played, you said bad.
I'm just done. It's too frustrating and it's not fun. And I only have a limited amount of energy in my day to play games. And I'd rather play games that I like and are fun than have to sit through this and be like, oh my God, please just let all the orange things come up and let me just lose it all. Like, I don't care. At one point, I'm just like,
caring.
I don't care. If I lose, great. That means the game's over. That's how bad I didn't like this game.
Towards the end, you were getting there. I could tell. You didn't care. You didn't care anymore.
I didn't.
And that was a quick how to play playthrough too.
And I was just like, I'm done. I kept playing, please let all the orange come
Now,
up.
why did I say what I said is because if there was a young person that really wanted to play this, I would play it with a grandson or granddaughter or some other child and their parents. If they really wanted to play it, I would play it.
I wouldn't.
Okay.
I'll make cookies. I'll make brownies.
You would say, I'm out this game.
I'm out. I will make popcorn. I will do anything but play this game.
Yeah. So I would play someone else's copy. We're not going to keep this. Okay. We don't recommend it.
No, we don't.
Unless you're like serious Disney fans, you got to own everything Disney. This is a big miss for Ravensburger.
Yeah.
We did keep Jungle Cruise. Okay. And we've
Oh, we
kept
did. That's right.
kept other games of theirs.
Yeah.
In fact, I can't think of a game that we've sold of theirs of recently, but this one we will not keep, and we do not recommend. So this is definitely a miss.
Yeah.
God, it's such a shame
I know.
because it could have been cool.
It could have been very cool, but oh well, maybe next time.
All right, thank you for watching.
Thanks. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.